What's up, y'all? It's Rylan here in Studio J, presented by Come Here and See, with a guy who's got more soul in his voice than he does hair on his face. It is the incredibly talented musician, artist, philanthropist, Marc Broussard. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
How has North Carolina been treating you so far?
Man, the weather's been stunning since we got to North Carolina. It's so beautiful. Asheville, a couple of nights ago, it was a little chilly, but last night in Charlotte, I mean, the day in Charlotte yesterday was absolutely stunning.
Yeah, man.
And here again in Raleigh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you've got some good weather. It's, we joke here in North Carolina about the weather. Like, it's snowing one day, the next day it's like a hot summer's day. So you've gotten a really good sweet spot since you've been here. And you're no stranger to states that have a rich cultural and musical history. You are a Louisianian, if that's the correct way of saying it.
It sure is.
Well, would you mind telling me a little bit about Louisiana and their cultural musical history?
Man, it's a very, very special place. I think it's unique, especially in the South. So heavily influenced by multiple cultures, heavily influenced by Afro-Caribbean culture, heavily influenced by French culture, obviously, but a lot of people don't know that the Spanish. I mean, we acquired the Louisiana Purchase from Spain, so there's also a massive Spanish influence as well, and I think it's led to some of the most unique music that emanates from the U.S. From Professor Longhair to Buckwheat Zydeco and the whole Cajun scene. There's really a wide swath of music that originates out of South Louisiana, and I love being from there.
Absolutely, man. How does it compare? Now, you've been all over the nation, all over the world. How does Louisiana culture music compare to other places here in the USA?
Again, I think it's one of the most unique places ever. I had a friend of mine that was a photographer for National Geographic, and he lived in Africa for 7 years and took some of the most iconic images that we've all seen. And he talks about seeing the origins of dishes like jambalaya and gumbo and hearing origins of some of the rhythms that you hear in New Orleans and beyond. I don't think it's comparable. I really don't think. I mean, can you think of another? There's really not another cuisine that emanates from a region that has made its impact all over the world. Every single place I go, including all over Asia, you'll see Tabasco hot sauce. You'll see Cajun chicken on the menu or some Cajun dish on the menu. So it's definitely a very, very unique place.
Yeah, absolutely a unique place. It's created unique sounds, dishes, and a unique person such as yourself. How has Louisiana's culture influenced you as an artist? For years, I would tell people that if aliens landed and offered me a ride out of here, but I could never come back, that I would take them up on it. And one day a buddy of mine said, he heard me say that, and he was like, bro, come on, that's nonsense. And I said, what do you mean? He was like, of all the places you traveled, where do you want to be more than anywhere? And he was right. I want to be home. I love where I'm from. It's shaped me as not only a musician, but also as a man. I've lived my entire adult life right across the street from my parents. I live on the street that I grew up on. It's kept me away from industry nonsense by not moving into an industry town like Los Angeles or Nashville or New York. I got to kind of shape my career in a very singular way, and I'm extremely grateful about how things have gone. That's amazing. How has your career been shaped and has evolved since you began?
Yeah, well, I started out at 20 years old, signed to Island Def Jam, and at that time, I was really delusional about how my career would go. I just assumed, being surrounded by so many professionals like my managers and my record label and even the guys in the band, that if I would just show up and do my job, that everything would work out. And that really wasn't the case. I really did need to engage and take a real forward role in my company and really dig into the meat and the potatoes of every aspect of what it is that we do, from how we're making records and how much we're spending making records, and just a whole host of things. And by the time 2011 rolled around, I'd been through 5 record deals. None of them were really fun to be involved with, and I was able to convince management to go independent. Our first project was a Christmas album. The second project was a charity album, and that took a lot of convincing. I had to do quite a bit of convincing for my managers to understand what I was trying to accomplish, because basically I had all those years on major labels. I never saw a dime from my record sales. The way the calculus of a record deal works is just I never saw that money ever. I never recouped what I owed the labels. And so by the time I went independent, all of a sudden I have this new revenue stream coming my way. And it was a revenue stream that I had never leaned on because, again, I never saw it. And so this money that used to keep the lights on in office buildings in New York City and Los Angeles and Nashville, I figured it would be better served going to people that actually need to keep their lights on. And so we started the s.o.s. projects, and have managed to raise tens of thousands of dollars through the sale of what is arguably a dead medium. You know what I mean? Nobody's buying CDs anymore. Most people don't even have a CD player anymore. But my fans know that that those purchases are going to a really great cause. And so from there on, it's been smooth sailing. We've managed to knock everything out of the park.
I am genuinely so inspired by your music. Arguably more so about your ability to recognize what you just laid out there for us and use your music, your art to give back to your community. I know you've done work with your s.o.s. Foundation.
Yeah.
Would you mind going in a little bit deeper on what that is exactly?
So the s.o.s. Foundation is really just a mission to raise dollars for causes that I'm passionate about. And really that can kind of be summed up as people that are in suffering. And so we find different charities throughout the country for each one of the albums. That first one was a group out of Atlanta called City of Refuge that is a homeless shelter, really comprehensive homeless approach through both shelter and education to get to a place where they're boasting something like 98% success rates with getting people permanently off the streets. The next project was funding for a brand new children's hospital that opened in Baton Rouge that expanded our region's ability to deal with chronic and terminal illness by a staggering amount. So no longer did Louisiana families have to drive to Houston. They could get treatment in their backyard. An amazingly successful project that was also joined with a children's book that I authored called I Love You For You that's also done very, very well. The last one was a blues project that I put together with a friend of mine, Joe Bonamassa. And he had done some work with a charity down in Miami prior called Guitars Over Guns that was just focused on keeping kids off the streets. And so because he had already done some work with them, it was a no-brainer for us to partner with them. We've got another one on the docket. We're going to partner with a charity group that I work with a bunch in Lafayette, Louisiana called Love of People that has a very broad mission. But, we fed something like 5,000 people last Thanksgiving. We have diaper drives all year long, toy drives, you name it.
Like I said, man, it's really amazing to hear everything that you've been able to do for your community through your art.
Look, man, it's honestly been more of a blessing for me than it has been for anybody else, because what I didn't foresee happening was so the s.o.s. records are all covers albums. And what it allows me to do is A, record some of my favorite music, B, gives me more time in between original records to really focus on high quality songwriting for my original projects, and C, it allows me to put more records out and thus keep the fans happy with new music every year. So it's been extremely helpful on so many levels, not only for the charities that we work with, but also for us.
That's incredible. And I also saw that you've done a lot of work, a lot of charity work with natural disaster relief. And of course, North Carolina suffered a intense hurricane out in western North Carolina
Yeah.
last October. And something that was really interesting about that is how the music, the musicians and the artists and the community came together to give back and help out in North Carolina's time of need. That's something that you have been able to do, not just for natural disasters, but for so many things. My question to you is, why does music work so well in other things when other things are failing?
Man, music. So I keep politics and sports and any kind of controversy away from the stage. I don't think it's my place to comment on current events from the microphone, because people are not coming to my shows to hear my political takes. They're coming to put that noise away for a little bit. And I think that's a major part of what music does for people. I don't want to say it's escapism, but it can soothe the soul in so many ways. I meet fans all the time that have a greater affinity for music than I do, that have a much deeper knowledge of the various genres that are available to them and the artists that populate those genres. Music it's an extremely important aspect of so many people's lives. And so I think musicians innately kind of know that. And when disaster strikes, we try to step up to the challenge of soothing some of those souls.
Yeah. Well, Marc, thank you so much for coming out to Studio J and talking with us. Marc's new album, Time is a Thief, is out. He's playing at the Lincoln Theater tonight. And Marc, I still can't tell if I am more inspired by the work you do, the music you make, or your facial hair. But thank you so much for coming out.
Appreciate you, Rylan. Thanks so much,
chatting
man.
with us.